Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Inspiration Station. I'm your host, Scott Arietta with Inspire Business Concepts, and today we're going to be reviewing a fantastic book with a kind of quirky title, Jeanne Bliss's I Love You More Than My Dog. If you're thinking that Jeanne's book sounds a little sentimental, you'd be right, but that's exactly what makes this book so great. So sit back, relax, and get ready to swap 10 minutes of your time for some guaranteed inspiration. Take a second to look over at your dog. Now, if Fido isn't around or you don't have a dog of your own to look at, you can use this picture of my dog. Now, aside from the debilitating cuteness, what is it exactly that has earned dogs the uncontested distinction of being man's best friend? Bliss would say that it's their unconditional devotion to their owners that make them not only ideal companions, but also a pretty convenient metaphor for how businesses can endear themselves to their customers. Turns out that Bliss's message isn't just tailored exclusively to dog lovers and those predisposed to latching on to sappy metaphors. In fact, she's held executive-level customer service positions at 5 major companies, including Land's End, a clothing retailer with some pretty serious customer service chops. These days, she's spreading the gospel of the customer experience to even more companies and industries as a consultant, speaker, and author. Now, with a resume like that, you'd figure that she could probably fill several books with the things that she has learned over the years. But this book boils it down to 5 key decisions that businesses need to make in order to cross that threshold from product and service provider to beloved companion. Let's break them down, shall we? Decision 1. Decide to believe. Have you ever gone to return an item to a store and found yourself bracing for what you know is going to be a surly experience? Think of the thoughts racing through your head at that moment. Where did I put that receipt? What if this isn't covered by the warranty? I wonder if I can just get my money back. What if they don't believe me? Without even realizing it, we've been conditioned to resort to defensiveness simply because there are very few companies that have chosen to actually believe their customers and give them the benefit of the doubt. To illustrate this point, Bliss tells the story of Zane Cycles, a Connecticut-based bike shop. Zanes trust their customers so much that they will let any customer test drive their bikes without having to provide collateral. Now, just to be clear, we're not talking about Walmart's $80 Huffy mountain bike special here. We're talking about bikes that cost more than most people's first car. Talk about trust. So why do they do it? Well, owner Chris Zane says this: "This is not about protecting ourselves. We're in the people business, not the thing business." Well said, Chris. And especially significant when you consider that the estimated customer lifetime value of a Zane's customer is $12,500. By keeping their focus on the fact that they are building lifetime relationships, Zane's employees are empowered to do the right thing for their customers. And if that touchy-feely rationale isn't quite hitting home for you, consider this. With just a single location nationwide, Zane's is one of the 3 largest bike shops in the United States, with an annual growth of over 20% since they opened in 1981. I'm sure you're also dying to know how many bikes they lose every year because of their crazy decision. A couple hundred maybe? A couple dozen? No. 5. Out of about 4,000 bikes sold every year. Maybe they're not so crazy after all. Decision 2. Decide with clarity of purpose. Ever come across a company that was clearly suffering from an identity crisis? I would argue that Starbucks Coffee Company, as of late, fits this description to a T. From its humble beginnings in Seattle, Starbucks has grown to become one of the most ubiquitous brands in existence, which in and of itself isn't a bad thing. But it has so often straddled that line between connoisseur-level quality and McDonald's-like efficiency that it has left itself without a solid footing in either camp. Now, rather than focusing on the negative, Bliss chooses to highlight some companies that have a rather healthy sense of identity and purpose. Companies like Zappos. Zappos is an online clothing and shoe retailer that prides itself on its no-hassle shopping experience and phenomenal customer service, served up with a healthy dose of fun and just a dash of weirdness. In fact, Zappos is so committed to the cultural experience that they've created that they will pay a new hire $2,000 if they decide that Zappos culture isn't for them. Now, if you're thinking that that's more than just a dash of weirdness, consider this. Fewer than 1% of people take Zappos up on their offer. That and the small fact that Zappos was recently acquired by e-tailer giant Amazon for $900 million says something about what a little bit of weirdness and a strong sense of identity can do. Decision 3. Decide to be real. I've spent more time than I'd care to admit in an airplane over the past few years, to the point where I can probably do all of the in-flight announcements myself without a script. So imagine my surprise when the flight attendant at one of my recent flights capped off the experience by saying,
"Please use caution when opening the overhead bins, as items have a tendency to shift during flight. As we all know, shift happens."
By now, most people have guessed that the airline I was flying on was Southwest. They're just known for infusing good humor with great service and transforming a routine flight into a memorable experience. This is the power of being real. Bliss points out that Southwest has never pretended to be all things to all people, and they've also never been afraid to deviate from the script once in a while and demonstrate that they are real people just like the people that they serve. Now, she points out that my experience isn't just a recent phenomenon. Southwest has always been pretty fearless and unapologetic about being real with its customers. For example, when it opened up shop in 1971, Southwest flight attendants came into work wearing hot pants and go-go boots. Now today, you're likely to see Southwest employees donning slightly more conservative garb, but the fact remains that Southwest has never been afraid to wear its heart on its sleeve when it comes to its customers. What's the benefit? Well, aside from their fiercely loyal customer base and a brand name that is practically synonymous with great customer service, Southwest is one of the few airlines that has thrived in the post-9/11 environment. And that's definitely saying something. Decision 4. Decide to be there. When Bliss talks about being there for customers, what she's really saying is that companies should listen to their customers and design experiences around their needs. She points to Threadless.com as an example. Threadless.com is an online clothing retailer specializing in custom t-shirts that has built its entire business model around listening to its customers. Threadless calls itself a community-centered online apparel store because its customers help to decide which t-shirts get made and sold. Members of the Threadless community submit their own designs, and in a true demonstration of democracy in action, other members vote to decide which designs will be immortalized on a T-shaped canvas. Because they've built their business around the principle of being there for their customers, Threadless eventually sells out of every product that they stock. Not too shabby. I'll bet that there are a bunch of retailers sitting on mountains of Uggs that wish they could say the same thing. Decision 5. Decide to say sorry. These days, it seems like apology avoidance is being elevated to the level of an art form. From Toyota's lame floor mat recall in response to reported accelerator problems that claimed the lives of several people, to the endless finger-pointing that ensued in the days after the housing bubble burst, there sure seems to be a lot of effort put into avoiding too little words. With all the publicity that is circulated about multi-million-dollar corporate lawsuits, it's easy to see how some executives have turned into culpability contortionists. But Bliss gives some compelling examples that cast some serious doubt on the notion that an honest apology will lead a company to certain demise. In fact, she goes so far as to suggest that the opposite might be true. If apology avoidance is an art form, then the healthcare industry is its Pablo Picasso. The rise of medical malpractice suits and the resulting lack of accountability that has ensued has made seeking medical attention only slightly more preferable than the alternative. So when you stumble across a company in this industry that not only apologizes but does it well, let's just say that the resulting double take is whiplash-inducing. Nurse Next Door is a company that assists caregivers by helping to care for their loved ones at home. The amazing thing about this company is not just the fact that they readily apologize when things go wrong, it's the fact that their apologies are edible. When mistakes happen, Nurse Next Door accompanies their heartfelt apology note with a slice of humble pie. Literally. They partner with local bakeries to supply the pies, and it turns out that contrition tastes sweet. How sweet? Well, Nurse Next Door estimates that they've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of sales with this simple but memorable gesture. Guess those apology avoidance artists should take up baking instead. So there you have it. 5 decisions that will put your business on the path straight into your customers' hearts. I'll close with a quote from the author. Love is irrational. Customer love is a reward for what some consider to be irrational business behavior. Does your company have the guts to be just a little bit crazy to get your customers to love you? As Bliss says numerous times throughout this book, the decision is yours. Thanks for listening.